All right, everybody, we are in Act II. We are back in Polonius's house in a room. Polonius is meeting with his, I guess he's kind of like his messenger, Ronaldo. Enter Polonius and Ronaldo. Polonius, give him this money and these notes, Ronaldo. I will, my lord. Now, Polonius is sending Ronaldo to meet Laertes. He's going to give him this money. But also Polonius has an ulterior motive for sending Ronaldo, not only to give him money, but we are going to find out that he is going to send Ronaldo to spy on Laertes. Now, I think at this point we should talk about father-son relationships and how they differ. First of all, we have Hamlet and King Hamlet, and so far their relationship seems like they're very loyal to one another. Hamlet's ready to kill somebody for King Hamlet, but yet Polonius is like really sneaky, and he's, gonna spy on his son, and I don't think it's because he doesn't love him, but I think Polonius is just a severely flawed character, and this sneakiness, this going behind people's backs, this is foreshadowing his end. Spoiler alert, because all of this behavior is going to eventually be Polonius's end. So, let's watch how this plays out. You shall do marvelously wise, good Ronaldo, before you visit him to make inquiry of his behavior. My lord, I did intend it. So basically, Polonius is like, before Laertes knows that you're there, make some inquiries on him. Ask around, see what people are saying about him. And Ronaldo says, I intend to. And Polonius says, very well said. Look you, sir. Inquire me first what Danskers are in Paris. Danskers are Danes, so the Danish. Who of our squad is in, Paris. And how and who, what means, and where they keep, what company, at what expense, and find it. So basically, he's like, find out where they hang out, who do they talk to, how are they behaving, who are their friends. And he says, by this encompassment and drift of question, that they do not know my son, come you more nearer than your particular demands will touch it. Take you, as 'twere, some distance knowledge of him, as thus, I know his father and his friends, and in part, do you mark this Ronaldo? Very well, my lord. So Polonius is directing Ronaldo to ask around about Laertes, but not to say that he's a direct friend. To be like, maybe perhaps come upon somebody and be like, I think there's a friend of my father. He has a son. I think his name's Laertes. I think that's his name. Have you heard anything about him? I was thinking perhaps, act like you don't really know him, but you sort of know him, because people will be freer with what they say about him. Because if you're like, oh, my best friend Laertes, how is he? People are going to be guarded in what they say. They're going to be like, oh, well, he's great. So Polonius is really smart here. So as he goes on, Ronaldo goes, aye, very well, my lord, and Polonius goes, and in part him, but you may say not well, if it be he, I mean. He's very wild, addicted so-and-so, and there put on him what forgeries you please. Marry none so rank as may dishonor him, take heed of that. But, sir, such wanton, wild, and unusual slips as our companions noted, and most known to youth and liberty. So Polonius goes a step further as to say, tell the person that you're talking to that you've heard that Laertes is, just a touch wild, or perhaps he, gets in a little bit of trouble. And he said, and when you do this, it will encourage the other person to go, trouble? Yeah, you know what? I heard he got in trouble the other day with so-and-so. And Polonius is telling Ronaldo that you will get more information if you put like a slight smudge on his reputation. But then he also says, oh, but you don't want to do anything too harsh. Just something that, young men usually do. Most known to youth and liberty. Something most average, kids do. And then Ronaldo goes, as gaming, my lord. And that's like gambling. And Polonius goes, aye, or drinking, fencing, swearing, quarreling, drabbing. You may go so far. Drabbing is buying prostitutes. So, Ronaldo goes, my lord, that would dishonor him. So Ronaldo kind of reins Polonius back. It's like, no, you don't want people to think that he buys prostitutes. So Polonius goes, oh, faith, no. So yeah, you're right. As you may season it in the charge, you must not put another scandal on him. So don't put a scandal on him. You're right. That he is open to incontinency, that's not my meaning. But breathe his faults so quaintly that they may seem the taints of liberty, the flash and outbreak of a fiery mind, a savageness and unreclaimed blood of general assault. So basically he's saying, okay, no, we don't want him to think that he's out, pillaging the brothels. We just, maybe fighting. Maybe he likes to get in a bar fight from time to time. And Ronaldo goes, but my good lord. And Polonius goes, wherefore should you do this? And Ronaldo's like, my lord, I would know that. So Ronaldo's like, when exactly do you want me to start talking to people about how your son likes to start fights? And Polonius says, okay, Mary, so here's my drift, and I believe it'll fetch a warrant. You lay these slight sullies on my son, as 'twere a thing a little soiled in the working. Mark you, your party in converse, him you would sound, having ever seen in the predominant crimes the youth you breathe of guilty. Be assured, he closes with you in this consequence, good sir, or so, or friend, or gentleman, according to the phrase or the addition of man and country. So Polonius is like, just talk a slight sully, nothing too harsh that will completely ruin his reputation, just to see what he's up to see if he's gotten into anything bad. Ronaldo goes, very good, my lord. And then Polonius continues, because he does this and he is long-winded. And then, sir, does he this? He does. What was I about to say? By the mass, I was about to say something. Where did I leave? So at this point, Polonius has talked so much that he has completely forgotten what he was saying. And so he looks at Ronaldo and he was like, what was I about to say? Ugh, by the mass, I was about to say something. And so then he asked Ronaldo, what was I going to say? And Ronaldo reminds him of his last thing. He said, at closes in consequence, at friend or so, and gentleman. And then Polonius picks right back up. It closes in the consequence, I marry. And then you can see from all this that he continues to go on. And he's talking about all the different things that he could place, like little deeds of badness that he can, deeds of badness. I teach words. Slight sullies on his reputation that he can get information from the people in Paris. And so Ronaldo, he asks Ronaldo at the end here, do you have me, have you not? And Ronaldo goes, my lord, I have, which means, yes, I understand. And then Polonius says, God be with ye, fare ye well, and good my lord. And Polonius, observe his inclination in yourself. And Ronaldo says, I shall, my lord, and let him ply his music, which basically means stay back, don't interfere, just watch, see what you can find out. And Ronaldo goes, well, my lord. And then Polonius goes, farewell. And as Ronaldo is exiting, Ophelia runs in. And Ophelia is frantic. You see the actress, and she's just like, oh my gosh. So she runs in, and Polonius looks at her, and he's like, how now, Ophelia? What is the matter? And Ophelia's frantic, and she's like, alas, my lord, I have been so affrighted. And affrighted means I've been scared to death. And Polonius is like, with what in the name of God? And then Ophelia tells us the story. She says, my lord, as I was sewing in my chamber, Lord Hamlet, with his doublet all embraced, it's like his little vest, it's all skewed open, no hat upon his head, his stockings fouled, which means his socks are like covered in dirt and mud, because you remember he just got back from following a ghost out into the wilderness, right? So he probably looks a little worse for the wear. Ungartered, down jibed to his ankles, because they usually pull him way up, but his are all smushed down to his ankle. Pale as his shirt, his knees knocking each other. Well, if I just talked to the ghost of my father who told me that my uncle's stepdaddy killed him and that he married my mother and it's a big incestuous mess, I think I would be pale and shaken and my doublet may be unbraced as well. So Hamlet's having a real rough day. And the first person he goes to is Ophelia, which breaks my heart because it tells us that Hamlet truly loves Ophelia. I mean, who do you go to when stuff gets real? You go to the person you love the most. Breaks my heart. So, and with a look so piteous and torpid, which means he looked so sad about the face, as if he had been loosed out of hell to speak of horrors, he comes before me. So Hamlet bursts into a room, and Polonius goes, "Mad for thy love," right? And she goes, "My lord, I do not know, but I truly do fear it." Because Hamlet, Polonius, let's rewind. Polonius wants to think that Hamlet's irrational behavior from this point on is because he is madly in love with Ophelia, but Ophelia is keeping herself from him per Polonius's instructions. She can't give Hamlet her time anymore. So Polonius is thinking in his head, well, it's because he's lovesick for my daughter. So that's what this is beginning to imply. It's because mad for thy love. And Ophelia's like, "My lord, I do not know, but truly I do fear it." So she kind of feels like it's probably the same way. And then Polonius, what said he? And Ophelia goes, "He took me by the wrist, and he held me hard. Then he goes to the length of all his arm, and with his other hand thus o'er his brow, he falls to such perusal of my face as he would draw it." And if you imagine this in your head, he takes her arm, and he's holding her, and he's staring at her as if he would draw her face, as if he would sketch her face, as if he was an artist. He stares at her that long. And I think at this moment, it's so heartbreaking because he's telling her goodbye, right? Because now he knows, and he told us in his globe, that he's going to forget everything except for exacting revenge upon Claudius. So part of what he has to let go is his love for Ophelia, because, Ophelia, we don't know if she's already started keeping time from him. I'm assuming probably not. There hasn't been much time that has passed between, Ghost. I'm not sure, but I feel like in my heart that he's telling her goodbye without telling her goodbye. So he's holding her arm, and she goes, "Long stayed he so. At last a little shaking of mine arm, and thrice his head thus waving up and down, he raised a sigh so piteous and profound as it did seem to shatter all his bulk and end his being." Like, have you ever seen just like that and that exhalation, that just letting it and just breaking apart in front of her? That done, he lets me go, and with his head over his shoulder turned, he seemed to find his way without his eyes, for outdoors he went without their help, and to the last bended their light on me. So as he exit the room, he's exiting with his back, like he's not even watching where he's going. He's staring at Ophelia as he leaves, and she's like, "It's a miracle he made it out the door because he was staring at me." It's so sad. Breaks my heart. I love that part. And then Polonius goes, "Come, go with me. I will go seek the king." That is the very ecstasy of love, whose violent property foredoes itself. So Polonius, like, this is obviously love sickness. He is broken apart. Whose violent property foredoes itself and leads the will to desperate undertakings. So Polonius is kind of like, well, Hamlet may be dangerous because this level of love sickness could become dangerous. And so, as oft as any passion under heaven that does afflict our natures, I'm sorry. What have you given him any hard words of late? And I love this because Polonius is like, she's broken. Hamlet's obviously, they loved each other very much. And then Polonius looks at her and goes, "What did you say to him? What did you say? What hard words did you say?" And Ophelia is just like, "No, my good lord, but as you did command, I did repel his letters and denied his access to me." So here we go. So they have had some time to be apart, to not talk to one another. So Hamlet knows that they can't be together anymore. And so Polonius goes, "That hath made him mad." So Polonius, he's already got it in his head, yes, these two, they're on Splitsville, and the fact that she will not give him time or her, love, then he's gone nutso. And so he says, I'm sorry that with better heed and judgment I had not quoted him. I feared he did but trifle, and meant to wreck thee, but beshrew my jealousy. This is very interesting here, because Polonius is actually admitting that perhaps he was too hasty, that perhaps he should have thought harder about how they should have handled this Hamlet-Ophelia situation, that perhaps he shouldn't cut off their interaction quite so abruptly, like there needed to be some time, perhaps it should have been handled more delicately. And he says here that I think he meant to wreck thee, which means ruin you, reputation, and you know what that means. But beshrew my jealousy, that he was actually jealous. And I think that's not like in a weird incestuous way. I think it's the fact that any father doesn't want to see their daughter, with a boy. That's icky. So I think that's what he means by beshrew my jealousy. And then he continues, it seems it as proper to our age to cast beyond ourselves in our opinions, as it is common for the younger sort to lack discretion. And this is really an age comment, because he's saying, as a man of my age, as an older adult, it is common for me to think that my opinions are always right and always sound, but it's the same sort of faulty thinking because the young lack discretion. So he's like, perhaps I was overly cautious, much like young people are not cautious at all. And so he continues, come go we to the king, this must be known, which being kept close might move more grief to hide than hate to utter love. So he's like, we have to tell the king, hopefully we can diffuse the situation before it gets any worse. So then they exit, and that is the end of Act 1, Scene 2. Let's see how long this next one is. Maybe we'll just go for it. This next scene is a really long scene, so we will stop here, and we will pick up on the next video with Act 2, Scene 2. Alright, bye!